This is the Bleeding Yankee Blue podcast, discussing and debating BYB Episode 4.
Yeah.
So imagine watching your team pull off this thrilling late-inning comeback win, right? You close your laptop, and you just feel, well, entirely exhausted.
Oh, completely drained.
Frustrated even. And that is exactly where the Bleeding Yankee Blue fan base is sitting right now. So today we're, putting down the official stat sheets. We're bypassing the polished press conferences.
Gnarly.
Right? We're diving straight into this huge stack of August 2026 posts from, well, one of the most passionate fan blogs out there. The mission of this deep dive is to really capture that raw, unfiltered emotional pulse of a fan base. A fan base caught in the crosshairs of a thrilling rookie rise. The sheer exhaustion of modern baseball's technical rules.
Is the existential dread.
Exactly. The heavy existential dread of a late summer pennant race.
I mean, it really is the perfect lens for understanding the current state of the game.
Right.
Because mainstream sports media does a phenomenal job giving you, the exit velocity of a home run.
Right. Or the spin rate of a slider.
Exactly. Or, playoff probability percentages. But diving into a dedicated fan blog like this, it provides something completely different.
It's way more visceral.
It really is. It gives us the true emotional barometer of the sport. It shows you how the game is actually being felt by the people investing 3 hours of their evening into it. And right now, what they are feeling is this very complicated mix of awe and, annoyance.
Oh, for sure. Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand the specific mood of this fan base, we really have to look at the massive dichotomy of the team currently on the field.
Yeah.
There was this recent Tuesday night game against the Seattle Mariners that honestly feels like it was, engineered in a lab to perfectly encapsulate the modern Yankee experience.
It really is. Yeah.
They won the game 4-1. It was their third straight comeback victory. And, if you look at the box score the next morning, you see a W.
Right. You see some resilience.
Yeah, and you assume the fan base is riding high.
Yet, when you actually read through the blog's postgame analysis, the overarching sentiment isn't celebration. It's deep structural frustration.
It's wild.
I know. The writer is practically begging the team to stop making the comeback a mandatory part of their nightly strategy.
Yes, and the blog points heavily to the performance of pitcher Ryan Weathers to explain this frustration. Weathers was absolutely brilliant on the mound.
Oh, he was untouchable.
He carried a one-hit shutout all the way into the 6th inning. He stretched his personal scoreless streak to 23 innings before Randy Rosarina finally snapped it with a solo home run.
Right.
So Weathers pitches 5.2 terrific innings. The bullpen comes in behind him and is completely spotless. And despite all of that elite run prevention, heading into the 7th inning, the Yankees are trailing 1-0.
And that right there is the core of the grievance.
Yeah.
I mean, relying on late inning magic, relying on someone just deciding to flip a switch in the 7th or 8th inning, it's simply not a sustainable model for winning a championship.
No, you can't live like that.
You really can't. When the blog complains about the team, quote, wandering around offensively for 6 innings, they are highlighting a very real mechanical flaw in how the roster is constructed.
Because you can't expect your pitching staff, no matter how dominant they look on a Tuesday in August, to just constantly operate with absolutely zero margin for error.
Exactly. The psychological toll that takes on a pitching staff over a 162-game season is immense.
But the blog literally writes, how about throwing the first punch? Which sounds incredibly basic, but if you're watching that game on your couch, you're probably screaming that exact phrase at the TV.
Oh, absolutely.
It highlights the agony of watching a team that seems to just coast through the early innings until their backs are firmly against the wall. Now, eventually, Ryan McMahon and Trent Grisham both hit 2-run knocks in the 7th.
Right, the score flips to 4-1.
Yeah, and they secure the win. But the exhaustion in the writing is just palpable. However, here's where it gets really interesting. Because the moment of the game that had this entire blog absolutely buzzing, the thing they dedicated the most digital ink to, wasn't the comeback at all.
No, it wasn't.
It was a single play in the very first inning by rookie shortstop George Lombard Jr.
Which is a fantastic pivot, by the way, because this specific play speaks to something deeply intrinsic about why we even watch sports in the first place.
Exactly. So picture the scenario for a second. It's the first inning, and a ground ball is hit incredibly hard up the middle. As it's rolling, it takes a wild, violent ricochet right off the second base bag, completely changing its trajectory and spin.
Just off her bounce.
Awful. But Lombard, playing shortstop, instantly adjusts his body momentum. He reaches out, barehands the baseball, and fires an absolute strike to first base to get the out.
Unbelievable play.
It was. And the blog goes out of its way to emphasize that this wasn't showboating. It wasn't, a player trying to get on the nightly highlight reel. It was pure, unadulterated instinct.
Yeah, it was a physical manifestation of a player whose brain instantaneously calculated the geometry of a bad bounce.
Right.
Like, the moment that ball hit the bag, Lombard's internal computer recognized that the top spin vector had changed, and he knew, without a fraction of a second of conscious deliberation, that the bare hand grab was the only physical way to record the out in time.
So I have to ask you about the mechanics of that, because reading the blog's description, it reminds me of trying to consciously overthink a golf swing versus just naturally stepping up and hitting the ball.
Oh, it's a good comparison.
Right. Like when you break down the mechanics of a golf swing into 50 tiny little thoughts, keep your left arm straight, hinge your wrists, shift your weight, you almost always end up shanking it into the woods.
Well, every single time.
But when you clear your head and just let muscle memory and natural instinct take over, it flows beautifully. Is that the mechanism we are seeing with Lombard?
That is a brilliant analogy, and it aligns perfectly with how veteran baseball scouts talk about a player's internal clock. You can take a prospect, put them on a practice field, and hit 10,000 fungo ground balls to them. You can drill them on optimal footwork, throwing mechanics, and where to position themselves based on launch angle analytics.
You can teach all the math.
Exactly. You can teach all of that. But that internal clock, the ability to see a violent, unexpected variable happen in real time and react flawlessly without the brain getting in the way of the body, that is unteachable.
Wow.
You either have that organic processing speed or you just don't.
And according to the blog, Lombard clearly has it. But, and this is so typical, they take this moment of pure joy and immediately wield it as a weapon against the front office.
Of course they do.
They pose this highly pointed hypothetical question to the readers. They ask, after years of errors and routine grounders turning into terrifying adventures, do you think in a million years Anthony Volpe makes that bare hand play?
Oof. And that question, it really cuts right to the bone of a broader organizational critique.
Yeah.
The fans aren't just comparing two athletes here,
Yeah.
They are rebelling against a philosophy.
Right, because the writer is furious. They argue that the fan base has been, quote, force-fed a narrative by the organization that Anthony Volpe is an elite defensive shortstop.
Yep.
And with Volpe currently struggling down in the minors, literally playing second base right now, the blog is looking at Lombard making these incredibly smooth, natural, instinctive plays, and they are demanding answers.
Yeah, they feel lied to.
Exactly. They are basically asking, why were we sold a false bill of goods for so long? Is this just how a real Yankee shortstop is actually supposed to look?
Well, what you're seeing here is the friction between the narrative a front office tries to build and the reality the fans see with their own eyes.
Right.
Front offices rely heavily on internal metrics and developmental projections. And honestly, sometimes they fall victim to the sunk cost fallacy.
Oh, sure.
When an organization spends years drafting, developing, and marketing a prospect like Volpe, they invest heavily in a specific outcome. To protect that investment, they often refuse to admit that the player might not be the defensive savior they projected. So they double down on the narrative.
But the fans don't care about that.
Exactly. Fans watching 162 games a year don't care about the developmental budget. They rely on the eye test. They see one player fighting the position looking frantic versus a player like Lombard who, as the blog notes, just naturally plays it.
Yeah, it's the difference between being handed a spreadsheet telling you someone is good and watching someone who just organically is.
Beautifully put.
But it's their exact organic, unteachable instinct we just saw with Lombard that makes the next post in our stack so incredibly frustrating to read.
Oh, the rules.
Yes, the rules. Because according to the blog, the league is currently obsessed with legislating that exact instinct completely out of the game. We transition from this pure athleticism into the hyper-technical, wildly over-legislated reality of modern baseball.
Yeah, it's a stark contrast.
There is an analogy in one of these posts that completely nailed this feeling for me. They compared watching a modern Major League Baseball game to playing the video game Borderlands 3 on the Xbox.
It is a surprisingly apt comparison when you break down the current state of the sport's pacing.
Right. The writer says, if you've played Borderlands 3, or really any massive open-world video game, you know the exact feeling. You are trying to just accomplish the main mission. You want to fight the boss.
Right. You want to advance the story.
But as you walk to your objective, the game constantly throws these annoying little side missions and mandatory minigames at you, completely distracting you from what you were trying to do in the first place.
It's maddening.
And the blog argues forcefully that this is exactly what baseball has become. The main mission, hitting, pitching, winning the athletic contest, is being constantly interrupted by administrative minigames.
Again, we should probably define the mechanics of these minigames in the context of the 2026 season, because we aren't just talking about a simple clock on the wall anymore.
Oh no, it's way past that.
We're talking about the pitch clock, the batter clock, the strict limits on pickoff moves, the geometric restrictions on exactly where infielders can stand,
The warning.
the constant warnings, and the subsequent violations that directly impact the score.
So the blog specifically highlights a recent game against the Atlanta Braves. It was a 5-4 win for the Yankees on Saturday, where Jose Caballero gets hit with a pitch clock violation.
Yep.
And the blog writer points out that Caballero has essentially become the poster child for manipulating these exact rules. He isn't just taking his time, he is actively weaponizing the timer.
He's testing the limits.
Exactly. If you watch him, he's deliberately holding his time out until the absolute last legal millisecond. He steps out of the box to freeze the pitcher's rhythm, forcing the umpire to constantly monitor his foot placement rather than focusing on, I don't know, the strike zone.
It's completely distracting from the actual game.
It culminated in Aaron Boone getting into a massive screaming match with the umpires because Caballero supposedly wasn't given his mandatory administrative warning before the violation was called.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the intention of the rules versus the reality of their implementation is a classic problem in sports evolution.
Why's that?
Well, the pitch clock was introduced with a very clear, very popular mandate. Speed up the pace of play and eliminate dead air.
Right, which everyone wanted.
Exactly. But whenever you introduce strict, measurable parameters to highly competitive, elite athletes, they aren't just going to passively abide by them. They are going to reverse engineer them to gain an edge.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So now, the athletes aren't just playing baseball against each other. They're playing a highly calculated metagame against a digital timer and the umpire's interpretation of a warning rule.
But wait, are we completely losing the plot here? Because if you're watching that game on your couch, you're probably throwing your hands up and screaming, just throw the ball!
Oh, constantly. And the blog essentially does exactly that. The writer says, I don't care anymore if Boone was technically right about the warning rule protocol or if Caballero is technically right about the timing milliseconds.
They're just over it. Completely over it. The writer pleads, beat the other team, hit the baseball, catch the baseball. Like, do we really want to spend more time debating the bureaucratic technicalities of a timer than we do actually enjoying the athletic contest?
It shifts the entire viewing experience. When a manager spends half his night arguing over the interpretation of seconds ticking down, the focus shifts from athletic mastery to bureaucratic compliance.
Ugh, bureaucratic compliance in baseball.
Right. But the blog is capturing a very genuine, deep-seated fatigue. Just think back to the Lombard play we were talking about.
The bare hand grab.
Fans tune in to watch a human being barehand a wildly ricocheting baseball, a feat of incredible reflex and spatial awareness. They do not tune in to watch a batter try to outsmart a digital clock by staring at a pitcher at the exact right millisecond to force an automatic ball.
Definitely not.
One is a display of peak athletic capability, right? And the other is...
a legal loophole.
Exactly, a legal loophole.
It's exhausting just reading about the metagame, and that exact on-field exhaustion with the rules bleeds directly into the broader existential anxiety of the fan base regarding the front office.
Oh, the front office anxiety is palpable.
It really is, because as you look at this fan blog, you learn just as much from reading the margins and the sidebar headlines as you do from the main feature articles.
That is so true. The periphery of a fan blog is always incredibly revealing. It acts as the subconscious of the fan base. It catches all the lingering anxieties that might not warrant a full article but are constantly buzzing in the background.
And the sidebar of Bleeding Yankee Blue right now is a highly stressful place to be.
I can imagine.
You've got headlines pointing out that the rival Boston Red Sox are suddenly, quote, on fire.
Oh, man.
Right. This is a team that just 4 months ago fired their manager, Alex Cora, and looked completely dead in the water. Yankee fans were practically throwing a parade, laughing at them sitting at the bottom of the AL East. Boston is surging. They're stringing together wins, while the Yankees, despite actually winning games themselves, are described by the blog as being perpetually on ADGE.
Well, momentum in a pennant race is a terrifying psychological phenomenon for a fan. When your historic rival is surging unexpectedly, every minor flaw in your own team feels heavily magnified.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, a 4-1 comeback win no longer feels like a gritty victory. It feels like you barely survived a game you should have dominated.
And those magnified flaws are aimed squarely at the front office's decision-making. I mean, there's a whole litany of grievances outlined here.
Let's hear them.
Well, you have fans reading financial reports that owner Hal Steinbrenner supposedly found $2.6 billion in franchise valuation. And the immediate cynical reaction from the blog is, great, you found billions on a spreadsheet. Can you find better baseball people to actually run the team? Right. Then you have absolute outrage over the philosophy of the recent trade deadline. The blog points out that the Los Angeles Dodgers aggressively went out and snagged a premium starting pitcher like Tarek Skubal, giving up whatever prospect capital was necessary to win now.
A huge move.
Meanwhile, the Yankees, according to the blog, settled for UGAT.
UGAS.
Yeah, which is local slang for absolutely nothing of value.
Right. Well, the trade deadline serves as the ultimate litmus test of a front office's commitment in the eyes of the fans.
How so?
Well, the Dodgers making a massive upgrade sends a clear signal to their fan base. We're going all in for a championship this year.
Right.
The Yankees front office, conversely, is operating under a philosophy of long-term asset management. They are hugging their top prospects to maintain a 5-year competitive window and prioritizing payroll flexibility.
Which sounds so boring.
It is boring to a fan, but to a general manager, giving up the future for a rental player is reckless.
But isn't the point of a baseball team to win baseball games right now? Like, how long can you honestly ask fans to care about a spreadsheet detailing payroll flexibility in 2029 when their rival is actively loading up their starting rotation for a playoff run today?
That is the exact friction point. The general manager is evaluated on the sustained year-over-year health of the organization. The fan evaluates the team solely on whether they win the World Series in October.
Right.
So, when a team isn't dominating, the front office's calculated restraint feels like a direct betrayal of the fans' emotional investment.
Oh, and the calculated restraint is getting shredded across the blog.
Yeah.
There's a post expressing utter bafflement regarding the catching situation. The team is choosing to stick with the catcher who is hitting a miserable .162 at the plate purely for defensive metrics.
Oh, .162.
Yeah. Instead of aggressively going after an elite, game-changing talent like Adley Rutschman.
That's a tough pill to swallow for a fan.
And even the ostensibly good news on the blog is met with heavy cynicism. There's a headline noting that Giancarlo Stanton is finally running the bases again after a long stint on the injured list.
Oh, that should be good news.
You would think. But instead of celebrating getting a power hitter back, the blog openly questions if they even need him right now.
Really?
Yes. They are asking if dropping Stanton back into the middle of the lineup is going to disrupt whatever fragile duct tape chemistry is actually winning them these recent comeback games.
Man, the anxiety is just off the charts. But, this raises an important question regarding why someone listening to this deep dive right now who maybe isn't a diehard Yankee fan should care about any of this.
Right. Why does the frustration of a Bronx fan blog matter outside of New York?
Exactly.
Well, because what we are looking at here through the lens of Bleeding Yankee Blue is the universal anatomy of sports fandom. It genuinely doesn't matter if you follow baseball, European soccer, or Formula One.
Not at all.
This blog perfectly illustrates the unresolvable baseline tension between the intense, bleeding heart emotional investment of the fan and the perceived, cold, corporate, calculated reality of the modern front office.
Yeah.
The fans want instinct on the field, they want aggressive, headline-grabbing trades, and they want to crush their rivals into the dirt.
Naturally.
But the front office is looking at efficiency models, injury probabilities, and long-term asset depreciation. And when those two worldviews collide during a tense pennant race, you get the exact cocktail of anxiety and exhaustion we see in these posts.
It's the ultimate burden of caring deeply, passionately, and financially about an entity that you ultimately have absolutely no control over.
So well said. So to bring it all together, we started this deep dive by looking at what appeared on paper to be a standard 4-1 comeback win.
Right.
But by reading the margins, we uncovered a fan base that is thrilled by the raw, unteachable instinct of a rookie shortstop, deeply exhausted by the video game mechanics and bureaucratic metagames of modern rules.
And highly anxious about the front office.
Yeah, exactly. Highly anxious about whether the billionaires running the team actually care about winning a championship as much as the fans sitting in the bleachers do. It is an incredible emotional roller coaster.
And it's a roller coaster they will willingly get back on tomorrow night for another 3 hours.
Oh, without a doubt. Which brings me to a final thought for you to ponder before we wrap up. We talked so much about George Lombard Jr.'s bare hand play in the first inning, that beautiful moment of pure, unteachable instinct that makes sports genuinely thrilling to watch in the first place.
Unforgettable play.
But as we look at the trajectory of the game, with all these new hyper-optimized rules, pitch clocks, the geometric restrictions, the constant administrative warnings, I mean, are we slowly, meticulously legislating that very instinct out of the sport entirely? Are we replacing the magic of the unexpected human reaction with the predictable, sterile rhythm of a digital timer? Think about that the next time you sit down to watch a game. Thanks for listening to the Bleeding Yankee Blue podcast. Have a good one.